that build AIs outside in the Western world. And most of the data that most of the big techs are using to make money today are being generated by the overconsumption of digital platform content by nations in the third world of developing countries, which Nigeria is one. So, and you find out that most of this data that is being generated, that the people who make money out of them are people from the Western world. So that is why one of the purpose and reason that Nigeria is pushing for data localization is that we, who are the ones generating this data and all this data is being collected from, that we will also be in a position to benefit from it. Then another thing that this vision, objective of this vision is to encourage indigenous content creation, which is where we promote made in Nigerian softwares and hardwares to reduce foreign dependency. That is why we see hardware manufacturers like Zynos, and you see other software manufacturing countries, and also some of the things young people are doing in Nigeria, even around AI, where we are creating our own algorithms that will also we are looking forward to compete with other ones from other regions of the world. Then, one of the major conversations around these things, when we are talking about rights and when you are talking about digital sovereignty, you can never talk about these things without talking about the legal framework upon which they are built on, or which drives whether our environment is a right to respecting one, or to come to the point where we can say that we have our digital sovereignty. So I mentioned earlier on about the Nigerian Data Protection Act, which was passed in 2023. Now we know that this is a landmark legislation that was established, which established a commission of them known as Nigerian Data Protection Commission. And their work is that they govern the personal data processing in Nigeria, emphasizing consent and rights of data subjects, aligning Nigeria with global standards. So most of what we are saying is that this was a landmark act or legal framework that Nigeria put in place, because prior to then, you find out that a lot of persons' data are being abused and a lot of people's privacy are not being protected. Following the passing of this law, we find out that even my organization, with some lawyers who work with us, have been able to leverage on this act to be able to get redress for some people who their data was not protected. An example is a citizen that UBA Bank used a data she supplied for the opening of another account to open a fresh account without her consent. And she reported it, and we worked with her to take it to court, and she was able to, the court was ruled to her favor and asked UBA to pay her 7 million. And the point here is not about the money that was paid, but the point now is that there is this consciousness, and we know that there's this law that will make data processors and data handlers to know that you don't handle people's data anyhow. So the next one, which is another legal framework that is also building towards the protection of citizens' rights and also helping Nigeria to create digital sovereignty, is the Cybercrime Act, which intend to combat cyber threats, but it is having as much as the benefits that are in it, where we are talking about where it is helping to curb cyber threats and also help to curb the cyber criminalism that is prevalent in the country. We have also found out that this law has been criticized because of the broad provision, where one of the keywords in that act, which is cyber stalking, the people in government have used it to be able to bully people online. But one of the things that happened is that recently, the National Assembly were able to work on this act, and a lot of adjustments were made on it to be able to make it to have a human face, which we are looking at it that the way it is now, it has gone to a certain level to address some of the concerns that human rights activists and civil society organizations raised about its shortcomings. Then, we now talk about, when we are talking about digital rights, so you can remember that we are talking about digital rights, we are talking about advocacy, and we are talking about digital sovereignty. And we are seeing that the right is on this end, digital sovereignty is on this end, and in the middle is advocacy, where human rights activists, civil society organizations, and some NGOs are coming together to make sure that while government is driving to have digital sovereignty in place, that should not be done at the expense of respecting or protecting citizens' rights online. So the conversation that happened, when you remember I started, I said we are going to talk about the intersection of all these things. So some of the conversations you will hear out there, maybe the reasons why government will give you, why they are not protecting citizens' rights, where they are going to gag people, where they are going to limit freedom of expression online, is usually security. So you find out that the state most times argue that digital sovereignty is necessary for national security. For example, it can be used in fighting insurgency like Boko Haram. And they will also make the case for economic independence, and using that to justify why they will surveil on citizens, where they will do lawful interceptions. Most times, most of us can hear that there are some point when the government will see that your Facebook account or Twitter account is a threat, they can use the law to intercept it or make you to be offline. And then you find out that there's this push for strict social media regulation. But on the other hand, which is what we are talking about, we talk about liberty and we talk about privacy. This place, we advocate and we argue that the broad sovereignty measures often lead to overreach. And we have seen it most times where a citizen will criticize government policy that is not, that everybody will know that glaringly that this policy is not being what would like is not good for the citizens. But by the time citizens aid their view online, government will leverage on protecting national security, or be talking about how that can cause turmoil in the country, and they will use that to gag people online. But liberty and privacy is advocating that data localization can enable states to do surveillance easily. For example, when government has every of your data online, because by the time you're online, they have your phone number, they have your house address, they have every information about you. It can make that when they try to cut you off the internet and that is not working, you might find out that that's how you wake up and hear that some people have been traced to their homes or to their workplaces and are killed. And you find out that these things, if not properly handled, will expose the citizens who are using these digital platforms to a whole lot of online harms. So that is why what we are saying, that caution should be taken when government is trying to put in those laws that they are looking forward to help government to enforce digital sovereignty, to make sure that there's a balance and that they will not be used and weaponized to silence opposition or citizens. Then under advocacy, what advocacy does is to defend the digital space, to bring that balance I spoke about earlier on, to make sure that there's a balance between when government is trying to enforce digital sovereignty and also respecting citizens' rights. And how are they going about this through advocacy? The first one is policy engagement. You find out that groups like my organization, Paradigm Initiative, we work to review bills, we work to propose right-respecting amendments, and this is a situation where we talk about being proactive, that in the process of when we find out that government is trying to put these laws that will regulate the digital space, that we come in and we align with them and work to make sure that those laws, while they are protecting Nigerian digital sovereignty, are not overreaching to gag citizens or to encourage online harm for citizens. Then the next one is strategic litigation. You can remember, as I mentioned earlier on, how we were able to take UBA to court and was able to get a favorable judgment for someone that the data was abused. So those are some of the ways that we are carrying out advocacy, and that every other citizen can also join and be carrying out advocacy. Is that most times we stay and say that things don't change. But when we don't interrogate these laws, when we don't stand up and take action, most times we will stay and say that these things are not working. until the time when we went to court and we are able to get this judgment, we never believed or never knew that such things could be possible. But taking that action has provided the leeway and also opened doors for other citizens to leverage that same avenue or path to seek for redress when they think that their data have been breached. Then another thing is capacity building. In this area, we advocate by training journalists and activists on digital security and circumventing tools. We don't stop at that only. We also train law enforcement agencies, we train people in the judiciary, and we also train the legislature, because we find out that these three major arms of government, when we bring them together and help them to build their capacity, it will help to create the balance we are talking about. Because one of the things we have found out in the course of the work we do is that there are some times when these cases will even get to the court, and you find out that a judge will tell you that he or she does not understand what you are talking about or what you're calling digital rights, because in their head, or to their not to being sincere with them, is that they have not encountered or come to the realization that those lines that we call rights offline can also apply online. So through capacity building, we are helping them to get themselves acquainted with what is obtainable in other parts of the world as it has to do with protection of digital rights, that is freedom of expression, privacy, and protection of your data. Then the next thing is campaigns. So for example, there's a campaign that we call Keep It On, which is a coalition of organizations in the global south and being channeled by an organization called Access Now. So what they are doing across this region is fighting governments who take joy in shutting down the internet to keep the citizens off the internet. So what are some of the challenges that we experience in some of these things? You find out that major is not just talking about digital sovereignty and getting these things done. Some of the challenges we experience is infrastructure deficit, because even when you are trying to say, I want to keep my data, for example, we built a data center in Nigeria that will be powering the data that will support the digital platforms and digital services in Nigeria. And we don't have enough electricity that will power those data centers. You will find out that at the end of the day, we will still start looking out for data centers that are located elsewhere where there is stable power supply. And then, which is what also leads to foreign, we talked about foreign dependence, because we heavily rely on infrastructure that are coming from China or the US and these tech giants or cloud services that are coming from these regions, because as we talk now, we don't have the full capacity to be able to carry out these services. The next thing is connectivity gaps. So you won't talk about digital sovereignty and you are mute on segregated populations remain offline. So those are some of the things we are looking at, is that if we are going to see full and functional digital sovereignty, there is a need for us to improve infrastructure that supports digital technologies. We have to move a certain level to develop capacity to have be less dependent on countries outside our own region. Then the next thing is that there's need to make sure that a lot of citizens are connected online. Then what does the future look like? So for each and every one of us, we know that the conversation on the table now as it comes to digital platforms and digital space is artificial intelligence. So good thing for Nigeria, we will say that Nigeria is at the forefront when it comes to Africa. Like I mentioned earlier on, Nigeria now has its own AI strategy. So we are also looking forward to ensuring algorithm sovereignty, where you ensure that AI models that are used in Nigeria are trained on local data that can prevent cultural bias. Then conversation is also going to find out that we also have enhanced regulations, because most times you find out that the way artificial intelligence is growing and developing every day, the way new things are coming up in it, that is the same way you find out that most of the laws that we have now are being outdated, even are not being able to catch up with the speed at which these technologies are developing. So that is why there is need that government should also be flexible to make sure that there is enhanced regulation that will be in tandem with the fast speed of development of digital technologies as is happening in this age and in this time. Then there are these thoughts that we want us to pause here and look at. Because we say, this thought saying that we must ensure that the pursuit of digital sovereignty does not become a pretext for digital authoritarianism. True sovereignty should empower citizens and it should not silence them. So just as you are also learning, have this at the back of your mind and put it somewhere, that this is the focus of the conversation that we are having today in a nutshell, is that why we are encouraging digital sovereignty, that we should not take it to a point where it will not become a tool for silencing citizens. So what are some of the recommendations that we've made to make sure that the balance that we've been preaching should be seen in the Nigerian ecosystem? First of all, we are talking about, for government, we are advocating or recommending that government should prioritize critical infrastructure, that is power and broadband, as I mentioned earlier on, before enforcing strict data localization. They should also ensure that we have a functional judicial system that will play a judicial oversight for surveillance, which means that this can be the thing that can make sure that surveillance should not be at the expense, should not be at a place where it cannot be controlled. And for the private sector, we are encouraging them to adopt privacy by design. That means by the time you're designing this product, even at the point of conception, you should make sure that you capture how that product or how that service will be able to protect the right of citizens, especially the data protection and privacy rights. And one of the things we are looking forward is that the Nigerian Data Protection Act should be a mirror for every private sector operator in the economy, so that they will be able to build trust with users. Then for civil societies, we are recommending that they should foster collaboration with courts, take policy bridges, and continue evidence-based advocacy. And that would mean is that advocacy that is based on research and facts that are verifiable, and not just the things that are made up. And then for the international partners, we are recommending that they should support capacity building for local data protection authorities to ensure that they encourage and support digital literacy programs. So this is what we have now. At this point in time, I think we'll be open the mic to the floor for question and answers. Questions? The moderator. All right, I'm seeing Olabimpe Adeniro. You can open your mic and ask your question.
Can I go ahead, sir?
Olabimpe, you can go ahead. Yes.
Two online, one side.
Olabimpe, go ahead. I think the other voice I was hearing in the background is not clear.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, and thanks for all you do. Now, if one wants to, since you do advocacy in behalf of those that suffer data breaches.
Hold on.
Online? Yes. It's not online. I want him to be online so that he can answer the questions. Can you hear us?
I hear you now.
Who is speaking? Who is speaking?
Olabimpe raised her hand earlier on.
Who's speaking? Is it from online?
Can I go on now? I heard hold on. That's why I kept quiet.
Yeah, hold on.
Swap the mic.
Okay, go on.
Olamipe, you can go on now.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So I was asking, since you do advocacy and I think you mitigate in behalf of those that suffer data breaches. So how do such victims contact your commission or your initiative?
Okay, just you can, if you have a pen, you can write this thing down. We have a platform that we call Reporting.
Okay.
And the email address is reporting.africa. So if you feel that your rights have been infringed upon, it's a simple platform that you can just go to that platform and don't report it. What will happen? Some people, our team members from the back end, will get back to you. Once we confirm that your report is real, we have pro bono lawyers who work with us to help you to seek redress where we've confirmed that your case is real. So just take it down, reporting.africa. If you have any case, you can go there and report. An agent will take it up with you and follow through.
So is it a website or I'm sending an email?
A website. It's a website, exactly.
So just reporting as in the usual way of writing?
No, report is RIPOTI.
POTI.
Africa.
Okay.
RIPOTI.Africa.
RIPOTI.AFRICA. Is that correct, please?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. It's in your hand.
Yes, can I go ahead, please?
You can.
Okay, good morning. My name is Aisha Serki from Kano State. Thank you for your insightful presentation. It was worth the time. My question is, or observation is, given that the government recently reversed the telecom tax for data and call prices, but it still remained high. So what specific advocacy steps has this initiative taken to engage telecom regulators or operators on ensuring that consumer benefit from this reversal? And are there any ongoing efforts to push for transparency and fair pricing in the telecom sector? That's my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I am leading a project that we are engaging with NCC. Like you said, a whole lot of advocacy is going on. One of the things we've done is to because I don't know that you know what we call the Universal Service Provision Fund. That is a fund where most telecom companies in Nigeria pay a certain percentage of their income as tax into it. So what we are we have a lot of money locked up there. And what we have done in advocacy is to make sure that that money is not allowed to lie as a waste. We are advocating for NCC and other government agencies, including the USPF, to be able to use the resources that are in that place to make you, if you listen when we talk about infrastructure, when we talk about broadband connection, if those things, those are some of the things that made the cost of connectivity to be high. So if government comes in and help to use the resources in those tax to subsidize those things, you find out that it will help to drive down cost. Then the next thing we are doing is that there's a project, like I mentioned, we call the community-centered connectivity initiatives. We are encouraging government, NCC inclusive, to also have a legal framework that can encourage private sector people that are not the big telcos to be involved in making these services to be available, especially in the rural area. Like as I'm talking to you, as at last year, we developed a strategy that we are working on. We are looking forward that by next year, that strategy can be moved to a point where it will become a legal framework that will be that will help make some of the questions that you asked to be something that will be obtainable. But I want to assure you that we as civil society, not just Padam Initiative, a lot of other organizations, we are almost like 7 civil society organizations that are working on this project. And I will tell you that NCC has been giving us a listening ear. And we know that something good will come out from it shortly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. All right. Olatunde. Mr. Olatunde, your hand is up. You can Ask your question. All right, Mr. Olatunde, if you can hear us, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. I see your hand is up. You're not hearing.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Good morning. Thank you very much for this presentation. Yes, I think you nailed a lot of things on the head. But I just want to find out, based on the advocacy you're doing, there's a big elephant in the room in Nigeria, which is affecting broadband connectivity and internet penetration. And that is purely right of way by the state. It's a big elephant in the room. So the question is, how are you looking at that? What are the possible resolution to that? I know from ISOC there's been a few engagements. I know the other parties are doing engagement, but in honest truth, I strongly believe if right of way is still as high as it is, we will keep having data prices so high up because deployment that forms the bulk of the cost for deployment for majority of the service provider, including the telcos. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm glad when you hear when I mentioned earlier about the engagement we're having with NCC. ISOC is one of the organizations that are part of that engagement. If you're conversant with this, you know that the issue of right of way is in government is what we call it is in the what do you call it? I think in the residual list where it is only for the state government to make decisions on. So, but what is happening is the conversations we are having now is we have started making the state government with the support from the national level to see the benefit of getting more of their citizens connected. So the good news you can, if you follow the news about right of way in Nigeria, starting from Lagos State, and you will find out that some states recently have started bringing down the cost of right of way. So what we are doing is that, like we said, is an advocacy and an engagement thing, and it's not something that we wake up one day and it has all happened. But the good thing is that we are still hitting the hammer on the head little by little. And we believe that with the consistent effort that is being put in place, that within a short period of time, that most people in the policy areas across the state will see the other side of the benefit that will come with them having more of their citizens connected than, which is the case we are making, is that the amount of money you are collecting as right of way, if you have a lot of your citizens connected to the internet and doing business, you can make a lot that is far, far more than what you're getting as right of way levies. And we find out that a lot of states have started seeing that. So what we are going to do is that we are lending our voices, and we are also asking every other person that is along the line to join us in bringing this before the people. By the time more states will see reasons with the case we are making, we will see that more states will also join to bring down the cost of their right of way levies to various minimum. Thank you. So, thank you so much. I don't with no other hand up. I think we have come to the Olabimpe, I don't know, you have another question or this is a legacy hand?
No, it's not a legacy answer.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have just 2 minutes to leave because I have another section. Oh, I'm seeing the hall. I have another. What you're going to do for me, because we started a little bit late, please, the organizers of the school, I will drop my email.
Oh, thank you.
Let them send. I will drop my email before I leave with the organizers. They will make it available to you. Please, all the questions you have.
In Nigeria.
Hello. So you can send all your questions to me.
Email, please.
To respond to any of the questions that are going to come, because I'm already 5 minutes late in another section I'm supposed to be speaking in.
In progress.
So at this point, I want to thank the organizers, and like I said, I'm going to send my email to the organizers, and they will get it across to everyone that participated here. I will also share my slide. I think, the organizers already have my slide presentation. Those who also need it, you can reach out to the organizers at your own discretion. They will be able to make it available to you. And if you have more questions, my organization is Paradigm Initiative, and you can get across to us at www.paradigmhq.org. And then if it's for email, the one you want me to respond to you directly, I will share my email with the organizers, and then you can send me any question, and I will be glad to also respond to you, and also help you know how you can be part of the advocacy work that we are all doing. Thank you so much. I also want to tell you that I am a pioneer student of the Nigerian School of Internet Governance. I'm one of the first persons that graduated from the very first school, and I am so happy to come back here today as a facilitator. And I wish all of you all the best, and enjoy the rest of your stay at the school. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's good to see your face once again, and thank you for telling us as a pioneer student the happiness and joy of having to come back to give a lecture on this platform. We say a big thank you also to Paradigm Initiative for giving us the opportunity to have you back in our midst. Having said that, we're moving up to the next.
The host microphone is muted, please.
Hello, sir. We are not hearing you.
The host microphone is muted.
Hello, sir. You have muted your mic.
To share is it's a real story actually. It's not something I created, and it happened. Who's from Benue State here? What part of Benue? Batik, not very far from where the story took place. I used to do theater in the round in Katsina. Look at Katsina, right? Theater in the round. Do you know what that is? Theater in the round. You know what it is? We would get to communities in the evening with our drumming and all that, and they gather to want to see
join the I'm trying to go online and see. Okay, where do you use my email?
Yes, theater in the round. People come around and circle while we're dancing and beating drums, and then the play starts. And they're watching it. But the play would have been not scripted, but would have conceived of it after a few days in the village to understand their challenge. So we turn it into drama and then present it to them, and they recognize it, and then they respond and tell us, look, in fact, that part wasn't quite good. That is where the problem really is. But the theater, the play, will teach them how to solve the problem. That was the whole essence. It's a system where theater could be used to teach people how to solve their own problem without preaching at them, without making you look like you're superior to them. But you'll be able to be with them in their own setting and let them see through theater or through drama what the challenge really is and how they can approach the solution. So it was involving the people themselves. Okay, so I was part of this show and I met a Canadian. Young, he hadn't been married, a single Canadian had come, and we were chatting for a long time. Then I realized how a certain development agency, I think we'll call them development partners, so they fund things, had funded certain projects in the community not too far from Vandercare. And it was supposed to be wells, where you get water, because the village, or so the foreigners thought, had a big water problem. Because the nearest stream was about almost 5 kilometers away. So the kids had to wake up early, go to the stream, fetch water, come back before they get ready for school. So this institution felt we can solve this problem for them. And so they deployed resources. For each community, they built a well in the center of the community. You know what happened? Nobody went to the well. That was a problem. How can you give people this free thing and they don't use it? They did their investigation. Why wasn't this well used? So they found out there was a story going around that the well was poisoned. Anybody who went there would drink and would die. So nobody went there. So they also found something else. That the people already also had housing problem. Housing. You know, one-room apartments, shanties, little privacy, kind of. So a man and wife, 5 children, one room.
Recording in progress.
So those two things were treated. But people preferred go take water in the morning, 5 kilometers and back, so that man and wife will have some privacy. Who got the joke? But you didn't clap. If you got the joke, what? So think of it this way. Assume that this institution had done the proper research to know what the challenge was. What would they have built? Well or house? So when you don't involve people in their own problem, Mass, you know it's more than I do. You give a strong solution and nobody really buys it and you waste your resource and you lose the people. Ultimately, we're talking diplomacy, by the way. If I have my slides, maybe I can use it as talking, but nothing really much in the slides. If you have it, please put it up. Otherwise, I still go on with my stories. But put that aside as one thing that you need to do in the world of diplomacy, which I truly confess I have no real understanding about. But I'll learn as we interact. I have a second story. This time about heaven. Everybody I have met in Nigeria believes in heaven and in hell. If you don't, raise your hand.
Diplomacy and let it show on the screen.
So you don't?
And the letter and the word.
Okay. If you do, raise your hand. Thank you. Feel free. We need to interact. I'm learning too as I talk. So this interesting story about heaven and hell, you may not have heard it, or you may. I doubt that you've heard it. I really doubt. It was about an old man in his 70s and was already in hospice facility. Then, in a dream, he saw that he had committed an infraction, small thing. And the spiritual hierarchy, I use terms that are not affiliated to any religion, so I say spiritual hierarchy. So you understand what I mean, right? So the spiritual hierarchy decreed that he should go to hell for that infraction. So he was sent to hell. He was in a boat. Okay, let's come back on. The boat was taking him to hell. As the boat approached, he saw this beautiful building, and the boat was sailing towards a beautiful, magnificent structure. As he got close, you could hear shrieks, eerie sounds, things that will frighten you. Those kinds of horror things. You could hear it. But when he arrived in hell, my goodness, there are 7-star hotels. Are you aware? Yes, there's 7-star hotels. No, there are 7-star hotels. I've seen 2. At least 2. But never mind, that is not about 7-star hotels. But he found hell almost like, or better even than a 7-star hotel. Everything was there. The food was huge. Beautifully built, air conditioning, wall-to-wall carpet, beautiful sofa. This be hell. So he noticed that the tables were long, all well set for dinner. When dinner came, the foods, different kinds, were all arranged, and it looked so wonderful. But he noticed something. The cheeks of those in hell were sunken, the eyes were receding. So what's going to happen? These people look this terrible if this much food were available. And then he heard the bell that called everybody to dinner. So they all came, and they sat on the table, face this way, face, how tables are, you face me and all that. But all the company, something else he found out, the spoon, the fork, the knife, all 6 feet. 6 feet. So, no one, you all tried. You took a spoon, you tried to take food, you couldn't use it. Nobody could use it. They struggled, you couldn't use it. And the time for dinner passed, they all left. Starved. He also starved, spent the time in hell, and starved. And then when the spiritual hierarchy felt, okay, there's enough time now, punished you, so enough punishment for that just infraction, he was then to go to heaven. Because all his 78 plus, he had done well. Just that infraction one day that got him to hell. So he was to move to heaven. They put him and took him same sea, but in the opposite direction. And he saw the same kind of building, but this time there were songs, laughter. He could hear it in the distance coming. So there was a feeling of some light air around it all. When he arrived, he was even more shocked. Everything was the same as in hell. No difference. The food, there was a difference, I'll tell you the difference in a minute. Food was the same, beautiful, everything, air conditioning, wall to wall, everything looked the same. But the difference was the cheeks of those in heaven were rotten, like yours, looking fresh and nice. People are looking well fed, like all of you. He was surprised. Okay, so this is hell. This is heaven now. Then he came to, they all sat again the same way. But you observed another difference. Each person, everybody, took the spoon, scooped some food, and served the person opposite. Everybody fed himself, but he fed someone else. Everybody fed someone else. Someone else. He too got fed by someone. And they all had a good meal. That's how it was all through his stay in heaven. So what does the story tell you?
Online people are not hearing him.
Yes. Please come up. Find out from them.
Says diplomacy, how?
Find out from them.
Okay.
Who knows this story before now? About I don't have the copyright. I had it by my mentor. Things are not as they appear. Okay. Things are not really as they appear literally. That's one. Never take it by. Don't ever judge a book by its cover. Right? He's right. I didn't even think of that. You see how? I'm here to learn. Anything else from the story? The slides are up, I think, but let's hear. Yes. Bon? Teach us.
So the fact that he noticed everyone scoop and serve the other person, and at the end of the day, they all left satisfied. There's so much to gain in community. When we look out for each other, at the end of the day, we are satisfied. Thank you.
I agree too. If we look out for each other, or one another, at the end of the day, we're satisfied. Okay, so next slide. Oh no, not my slides. Not my slides, right? What happened? Anyway, let's carry on. So there are many principles in those two stories. So those principles, I didn't want to tell you what it is. I thought you would be able to tell me what, but I've got to. There are many more in those two stories. Truly speaking. But let's talk a little more than about the word diplomacy and see if they connect somehow. But is there anybody here who's a public servant?
I don't think I am.
What organization?
No, just put that diplomacy.
Diplomacy
in internet governance.
You?
Okay.
Why do you put your results, your personal pass out? But why is very good? Are there any professors here? Academics, university? Nobody from the academia? One? Only one? Who else? Do you go on strike? Yes. I used to tell my brothers that if I were Minister of Education, nobody would go on strike. I made them so happy. No, the university, incidentally, is an enterprise, isn't it? I don't know why professors are poor. I don't understand it. The university is an enterprise. A huge enterprise. It has everything. Land, not so. Human resources, not so.
Maybe you reduce
extended
facilities for research, not so. Why do they want? What gives universities more right to public funds than people like us, artisans like us? Why do you think it should have access to government money, taxpayers' money, than the boys in Chiba Market, Chiba IT cluster, Computer Village? Do they construct Computer Village? But you too. Yes. What issue? The issue is not money. Only at Otiba, the Computer Village, or the cluster anywhere in the other country, right? Do they go on strike at all? Or universities go on strike? ASO, or whatever politics, whatever they go. Isn't that money matter? No, I didn't get the last thing you said. Who goes on strike in the higher institutions? The staff and non-academic. No, I'm asking why. Isn't that money matter? They want more money.
No, it's money, yeah.
Money, exactly. It's not what? It's not all salaries, money. What can it be? Everything boils down to It's money. I like money. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm only asking, why should the university lecturers or tertiary institutions lecturers go on strike because of money matter? Do they have right to government public money than the artisans who never go on strike? But if the laptop of the head of department or professor goes bad, he takes it to the people in the computer village. Even if he's a professor of IT, he would still take it there. He won't pay it himself. Even if he's a IT, he will not take it his phone to his colleague. He will take it to.
You know, somehow they think they are much more higher species of research than regular.
That's why they want to strike.
They think they deserve more than what they're getting.
From who? Deserve more from who?
Government.
Who is government?
This
Where did they get this money from? Now money belongs to all of us. So because you're higher, you think we should get it, we shouldn't get it. By the nature of their job, they're entitled to it. I've never had, forgive me, I've never had a bigger fallacy than by the nature of their job, they deserve more money.
Diplomacy is the use of dialogue.
Use of dialogue.
Yes, especially conflict resolution. And when we talk about dialogue, we're talking about shared perspectives. I cannot just be the one to come up with a solution to provide that.
Excellent. Dialogue. They say if you can keep people talking, they're not going to fight. Once you make sure they're still talking, it's when the talk breaks down and the blow.
I think diplomacy to me is the act of actually managing relationship, negotiations, and even communication with people, between two people, among people, communications, managing relationships.
Managing relationships, you guys are smart, huh? But I really want to talk about civil service.
I just wanted to add that diplomacy is basically reciprocity in action. So both parties have to come forward with mutually beneficial, basically arrangements that would benefit both parties. It's not a competition. There's no winner. There's no loser. Both parties also.
every answer. So yes, careful. All the answers are. I didn't think of this. Honestly, I was going to quite agree with you. But there's two stories I told you. Did you see empathy? Did you see compromise? Did you see? Think of it now. Which of?
What's nonsense? What's his name?
Among government and private sector, who is the one in heaven? There's no one in hell. Who gives you and you give back? Government. Both of them. I want to hear those public servants. A few of you raise your hands. Because the stories I heard yesterday after the session wasn't very good. One of us here had lunch on the same table with me. We actually had lunch, sat and talked until all of you had left. And I could feel the pain. And this person is in the private sector. I could see the pain she was going through, trying to find facility to hold an event that Nigeria would benefit from. And government's facility said no. It's only for government purposes. I don't believe that is true. So I wanted to hear other public servants how they relate to private people. Who was who? I want to comment. Yes, give us, tell us how you relate to the private sector.
It depends. It depends on so many factors. The fact is that most private organizations see government as, I'm very sorry to use this word, as we must provide all. I'm not speaking for government, but I'm just speaking, they say this is a Chatham House. Okay.
Private sector must provide more to government.
No. Private sectors want government to be to provide all. Let me give an example. If government creates an enabling environment for being a big father, a big brother, but the private sector, they are always complaining that they want government to do more. Let me give you a practical example of the ASU strike. You know, the ASU has seen themselves as a demigod, that they can. Okay, I want to give, actually ASU is not a private organization, but of course they are union. So one way or the other, they have some leeway to do certain things. They are like Oliver Twist. They always want they want the best. They want everything. But I had a conversation with ASU one time, and I said, of course, you are in the academics. You provide services. You teach. You do research. But that doesn't make your setup more critical than others that are not even going on strike. Government is supposed to be give and take. So you take one, that's the give and take.
Okay, so we have to pause a bit to do some democracy. We have two options: to shut down, end the class, kind of right away, or return and finish. So we should return and finish. So we allow. You asked the question. There's a need for another presentation at this time. Well, I didn't start when I didn't. The first one in the morning, there was some delay, and then we moved and kept moving. There's one that's scheduled, and we want you to come right when you're scheduled. So we can't keep adjusting the time. Let's get it right. So we can either then end this right away, or we'll simply give the person the time, and then